So now that we've talked about different technologies that we can use for keeping our tasks, let's actually keep some tasks. Now, and really I've talked about the fact that the cycle, well, I haven't used the term cycle yet. The technique that I encourage people to use is something I invented. I call it the cycle, and it's a way of managing and linking your to-do lists, your date book, and your long-term life goals. Before we talk about the cycle, I'd like to talk about some other to-do list management systems that are very popular, but I don't recommend them. Now, the first technique is called memorize everything. And it's very popular. As I said before, we are sort of brain people here. We're sysadmins. We're good at using our brains, so we try to keep everything in our brain. But we get into, as system administrators, we start getting the flood of things. We can't memorize them all, and we decided maybe paper would be better. And often we then adopt a technique I like to call the zillions of scattered notes technique. The zillions of scattered notes technique. Now, you know someone's using the zillions of scattered notes technique if on their monitor they have those yellow sticky notes all around the monitor. Right? And this one says call Ed and a phone number, and you don't know, am I supposed to call Ed or am I keeping this around just to keep his phone number? And the wind comes by and blows some off. How many people have coworkers that have a monitor that looks like that? Right? Wow. Yeah, and half of them have passwords. That's just wrong. And you go to a meeting and you take some action items and you write them on a piece of paper, and you come back to your desk, and then you go to another meeting and you get more action items and you write those down on a different piece of paper. You come back to your desk, and now you have your yellow sticky notes, and you have a couple different lists, and it's crazy, and you're stressing out because it's chaotic, and you decide I should not use the zillion scattered notes technique anymore. And you graduate from the zillion scattered notes technique. And yes, hand up back. That's a good justification for a bigger monitor, yes. Or dual monitors. Absolutely. So you decide, I'm going to graduate from the school of the zillion scattered notes technique, and I'm going to reform myself. And you go out and you buy a notebook, or you get a notebook from the stock room, say, I'm going to have one list. I'm going to go from zillions to one. And it works great. You go to a meeting, you get some action items, and you write them in your notebook, and you get more, and you cross them out when it's done, and you write them when you get new ones. And it works great. For the first week, second week it works great. You have a couple more pages of notes. Third week, not so good, because now you're spending more time flipping around looking for uncrossed out items than you are doing items, and you come up with meta techniques like, well, I'll just cross it out and move it to the front of the list, or this list is almost done, I'll just tear it out of the book. And it gets more complicated than the zillions of scattered notes technique, but more importantly, it becomes emotionally detrimental, because it becomes a demotivator. Because at the end of every day, you look at this book of lists, and you feel guilty for going home because there's so much more work to be done. We're workaholics in this industry, and I want to discourage people from feeling guilty about going home at the end of a day because there's more work to be done. And in fact, the list often then becomes the never-ending list of doom. Say that with me. Never-ending list of doom. And the never-ending list of doom is not where we want to be either. It's also very popular. How many people feel sort of bad about leaving work at the end of the day because there's so much more work to be done? Right. It becomes demotivating. And a lot of people leave our industry. A lot of good people leave our industry because they're in this tailspin. So we want to, three very popular techniques, but we want to use something better. In summary, why do to-do lists fail? We often try to rely on known faulty hardware. Our brain is known faulty hardware. There's no part of the brain. Evolution did not create a part of the brain for memorizing long lists. And as proof, if you know that your flashlight in your house has dead batteries, do you remember this when you're at the store? No. When the lights go out, you go, oh, and I forgot to get new batteries. You know why? Because we have thousands of years of evolution preparing us to react. When a saber-toothed tiger comes at us, we react, and we're really good at that. The concept of building up a shopping list of things to need is a very recent innovation for the human brain, and we have not yet developed like a part of the brain for remembering long lists of things. But what we have evolved to do is create tools that can be external data storage for us. So lists are the tools that we've developed. So they also fail because it doesn't keep everything in one place. It's scattered, or we have too many lists. Half of them are out of date. Or we try to keep one big scary list and it becomes the never-ending list of doom.